Hey there, it's James here from JD Scott & Co. Today I thought I'd give a few opinions, some of this will be political, on the budget. We haven't put much out there in terms of analysis. To be honest with you, until the actual legislation passes, it's going to be really hard to know what the rules are. But I've got a few thoughts. Clearly, it's a budget that just raises revenue. If the government was serious about intergenerational fairness, the first thing they would have done is cut marginal rates. I've got a lot of young staff here, a lot of people under the age of 30. I've got kids who are under the age of 30. This budget does nothing to help them at all. Yes, it imposes more tax. Yes, it is supposed to reduce house prices by 4%, which, to be honest, isn't much at all. But it doesn't do what it really needs to do, which is make it easier for young people to save, make it easier for young people to invest into the future. So that's the first thing. How should they have done that? They should have cut marginal rates. There should have been an announcement, a quid pro quo that said, hey, on budget night, we're going to tax wealthy people more. But on the flip side, we're going to reduce, say, top margin rate to, I don't know, $400,000. Pick a number, somewhere high or much higher than it is today. Likewise, the bottom, maybe it kicks in at 50,000. I don't know, something I'm sure there's modeling out there that shows you what the right numbers are, but something that gives a significant tax cut to PAYG earners. And I'm a business owner myself. So, for me, there's going to be quid pro quo on both sides. Secondly, we probably should have upped the GST. There's a significant number of people in this country who don't pay tax or pay very minimal tax. And they're not the wealthy ones. I'm not talking people out there with tens of millions. Lots of people just don't pay tax. We have one of the lowest rates of GST in the world. And so those three pieces together, increasing tax on investments, upping the GST, and reducing marginal rates would have gone a long way to fixing intergenerational unfairness in the tax system. Next, taxation of trusts. This is a fraught one. Most of the world does tax trusts in some way or other, so we're kind of just playing catch up. But unfortunately, because of the way Australian business has been structured for the last, almost 100 years, and because our marginal rates are so low, as in they kick in at such low levels, and we tax PAYG earners at such a high amount, businesses use trusts to try and reduce the tax bill. And as Kerry Packer once famously said, if you don't do everything you can to minimise your tax, then you need to have your head read because the government doesn't spend it very well. So taxation of trusts, I would have thought or hoped it would just simply bring it into the franking credit regime. Very simple to do. We tax companies. We just tax trusts as companies. Simple. Would have been an easy change. It would have meant that franking credits flow through, of course. The government wouldn't raise as much money, but it would bring back the integrity into the tax system that the ATO was looking for, the government was looking for. Finally, CGT. Look, am I against indexation? No. Did we have it before? Yes. However, we also had income averaging. So if you made a big gain in 1 year, that was averaged over 5 to sort of soften the impact in any one given year, which, it's not a bad idea. Yet again, this is a budget that won't hurt the rich as much as it will hurt people who don't have many assets and don't have high wealth or high income, which I think is slightly ironic for a socialist style government. So not against the CGT changes per se. Again, if you've got assets today, your discount's already quarantined. So again, only people going forward that'll get hurt the worst. Which again comes back to the young. They're the ones who are accumulating assets today who will have to pay a lot more tax on that in the future. It's not the old people. It's not the people in their, me or older who've already accumulated assets. No, it's the young. So intergenerational fairness? No, don't see it. Lastly, negative gearing changes. Again, not against it. Most of the world doesn't allow you to offset negative gearing on property with other income. Again, Australia's been a bit of an outlier there. I think the easier way to have done it would simply be to quarantine, which is effectively sort of what they've done, effectively quarantine the negative gearing part from, say, passive assets with everything else. Look, not the end of the world. I think most people accept it. That's been the one area that's had the least amount of contention and the least amount of screaming and yelling in the press. Final thought on CGT. Is it manifestly unfair on small business in particular, medium business? Absolutely. Small and medium businesses take huge risks, personal and financial risks. They put themselves out there to build their business and build their economy. there's a good chance they'll go bust. Most businesses go bust within 5 years and are there after 5. I think like 80% of businesses, right? So most people who start a business fail. Should that risk be rewarded? Absolutely. Should it be rewarded more than someone who does a PAYG? Yeah, probably, I think. There's lots of unpaid hours, lots of unpaid stress, lots of unpaid time, lots of sacrifices made that probably requires a different tax treatment for businesses. Now, let's split this between businesses and what I term passive assets. And again, this would have been a really, really simple change to make. It's already in the tax legislation. We have good definitions in case law for what passive assets are. We have good definition of what I term active assets, which is business assets. It would have been simple for the government to go, you know what, we're going to tax passive assets like this, investment properties, shares, listed shares, those sorts of assets like this. We're going to take active assets, small businesses, and a small business is not $2 million revenue. That number hasn't changed in 20 years, but we're going to tax passive assets like we always have. That would have been a very, very simple change to make. People would have got it. You should be rewarded for the effort you take. Anyway, slightly political to this time. But till next time, we'll wait for the legislation. It's due out, I think, this Thursday, the 28th, I think, we're due this legislation. We'll see how this goes. Till next time. Thanks.